Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the prelim fights for UFC Fight Night, Thompson versus Neal. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card in our first prelim fight. So in our first fight, we have in the lightweight division, Carlton Minus versus Christos Giagos. So this is a late replacement, Giagos stepping in for Rick Glenn. Yeah, there's a long pause right there. But yeah, stepping in for Rick Glenn. Almost forgot. But yeah, I'm going to be cut and dry with this one. I don't think Minus has necessarily the best grappling. He will have sport an even bigger height, reach and size advantage than he was against Rick Glenn, his original opponent. You know, Giagos, I think, is more the natural lightweight than Glenn is. So he's more physically wider, but Glenn has the longer reach and is a taller fighter. But as far as height and length of the arms, he'll have a bigger advantage like Minus will over Giagos. But to cut and dry this one, I think the experience of Giagos will be a bigger factor as far as this fight goes. And his grappling will be a big factor in this fight goes. So the experience and the grappling, I think it's a tightly contested fight, but the grappling, the pressure, and the pace of Giagos, also the experience of Giagos being enough to get him over on a decision. So in this fight, I have Christos Giagos via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the flyweight division, Jimmy Flick versus Cody Durden. And I've already predicted this fight before, so it's going to be real quick to the point. Both fighters are solid grapplers. Both have solid striking. Durden, definitely the sturdiest chin and the heavy-handed fighter. But I think his style just kind of plays into Flick's hand. Flick will be the taller, lankier fighter. I think he's more versatile and more composed striker. And then Durden is a wrestler. And he likes to grapple. And Flick is very opportunistic and very offensive with his jiu-jitsu and his attack. And Durden is going to be in that wheelhouse. He's going to be trying to, take him down. Once the striking not really playing out the best for him. He's a 2-0 boxer against mediocre competition, which means nothing. So yeah, but going to try to go for some takedowns. And that's going to play into the wheelhouse of Flick. And Flick's going to be, especially with a lot of his takedowns, he leaves his neck out there. And a guy like Flick is going to take full advantage of that. So I see a competitive fight. But I see Durden's pattern of going, extending his neck on these shots and takedown attempts is going to lead to Flick being able to snap up a neck and tap him out. And I think that happens in the second round. So in this fight, I have Jimmy Flick via second round submission. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, Nchukwi versus Jamie Pickett. So you got a recent Dana White Contender Series, our recent winner on the Dana White Contender Series coming off and getting his debut in the UFC versus Jamie Pickett. And first he was a light heavyweight. I think at one point he was a heavyweight, then he was light heavyweight, or not, I think it was more light. By the way, he's a middleweight now. He's dropping down from light heavyweight to middleweight. And he's facing Jamie Pickett. And this is an interesting matchup for sure, because Nchukwi, I feel like a lot of people kind of saw mixed things in the fight. His Contender Series fight, some people say, oh, this guy looked like Mike Tyson. As Dana White said. And some people say, oh, I don't think he looked experienced enough, to really have a UFC contract. Like, he might need more time to get better. But I was saying, leaning toward the Mike Tyson. Also, there's just the lack of confidence in people picking Pickett. As Pickett has had many setbacks, or enough setbacks that people can't really rely on him. But yeah, really looking at this one, Nchukwi is about 6 feet tall, Pickett is about 6'3", and I think he'll have a short reach advantage over Nchukwi. Nchukwi is not the fastest fighter, I would say, and I think Pickett is a faster, longer fighter, so maybe he can walk him to some counters. And so he's not the fastest fighter, and his defense from his debut did not look the best. And this is heavier fighter than you're fighting him. I think this is a much better fighter than the guy he fought on the Contender Series, is my opinion. So that does present opportunities, especially with the speed deficiency and defensive deficiency, and then the reach of Pickett and the experience of Pickett. That could present issues. But I think it's really gonna come down to the fact that Pickett doesn't do the best with bullies, a fighter that's gonna pressure him heavily and impose pose themselves on him. And Nchukwi is a very physically strong fighter. He's very good at cutting off the cage, very good at, smothering you and ripping to your body and manhandling you. That pretty much is cut and dry. He's good at manhandling you. He's a very strong fighter. Like I say, he might not be the fastest or appear to be the fastest. Might not be the best defensively, but he has underrated BJJ. He has heavy hands, and you will feel every single punch, every single kick he does, and he will make that cage small, and he will rip to your body. And Pickett, I think, with his style, is going to allow him to, back him up, put him in his position where Nchukwi is best and just ripping Pickett to the body and bully him against the cage. Maybe mix some takedowns in there, but more so I just probably think he just bullies him against the cage, mixes the body, gets him in the Muay plum and starts just manhandling him around. I think after through the first round, he really starts to tear him up. Then the second round is rip him to the ground, hurts him, then rip him to the ground, and then finish him off with ground and pound in that second round. So in this fight, I have Tafon Nchukwi via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in a catchweight bout at 195, Winn versus Antonio Aroyo. So Winn has definitely been lackluster as far as his UFC career goes. Like, kind of expecting him to be this discount Daniel Cormier at middleweight or do something, but it's just not the case. He's not Daniel Cormier at all. He's himself, and definitely for the worse. It's not like for better or worse, but for right now, it's definitely for the worse because it's not looking like his UFC career is going to be all that bright. His life's going to fizzle out pretty quickly and not go anywhere. But yeah, Winn versus Antonio Aroyo. So look at Winn. He's like 5'7", 5'8". He's very short. Arroyo is like 6'3", so that's a big height differential. Arroyo has some solid grappling. This Winn will be the better wrestler, but so far with his wrestling, he hasn't shown much of anything. Like, not showing no great control, no amazing takedown defense, no amazing pace with his wrestling. Like, he can get some takedowns. He's a high-level wrestler, but can't really hold nobody down. And like I say, can't keep that pace. Cardio's been an issue. Control's been an issue. And when a wrestler doesn't have amazing cardio and can't really even control you on the ground, like, what good is a wrestler? And he has some striking. Yes, he be throwing some leather, and yes, he has some power in it, but he's not a knockout puncher. Like, he could definitely put some weight behind those punches, but he ain't been knocking nobody out. And it's not like his technique with the striking has been that high level. He has not looked all that impressive in any of his fights. So really when I look at this Antonio Arroyo versus Winn fight, I see if a Winn maybe being able to get some takedowns, but not being able to have no control on the fit, being active. But Arroyo is just a much cleaner, much more technical striker, and he'll have a huge height and reach advantage over Winn. And to just play with him, really, like, you can have all the advantages. So just let your hands go, let your kicks go, and let yourself just flow, because you're going to get the shorter fighter who's basically going to be a punching bag for you. Yes, he's going to get a couple takedowns, but defend them, stuff them, get back to your feet, let him wear himself out, and then just pick him apart on his feet. And I think that's what happened. Like, Winn might have some success early on in the first round, but after that first round, at best, it's going to be downhill from there, and then he's going to become a punching bag and be tired telegraphing takedowns and just getting picked apart with spinning kicks to the body, head kicks, uppercuts, and all types of shots, anything that Arroyo wants to throw at him. I think Arroyo stops him in the third after, Winn is weathered, and this really just, like I said, becomes a punching bag. So in this fight, I have Antonio Arroyo via third round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, Roberson versus Lungiambula. So I'm looking at this one right here. Roberson's a younger fighter, and I think he's a more technical fighter and a more crisp and much more composed fighter. Lungiambula, he has a well-rounded skill set, but really a lot of his striking, just explosion and big shots and looking for that knockout. That's really what I see with Lungiambula. Not the most well-rounded fighter, not the most technical, not the prettiest, but effective. Well, like I said, Robinson will be taller, he'll be more versatile, and he'll be more well-rounded, and he'll be cleaner, more composed, and that's what's going to be come down to. I think it'll be to chew the legs up of Lungiambula, use his height, use his reach, stick a jab in Lungiambula's face, rip kick to the body, and then on the inside, when Lungiambula tries to overextend, I think he'll be able to catch him with elbows on the inside, and I actually think he just really just straight picks apart Lungiambula, like, takes advantage of his aggression, take advantage of the overextension, just like I said, just pick him apart and walk him into strikes, like pick him apart from distance, then when he overextends, counter him, and just like I said, just dominate this fight and get him out of there in the first round. So in this fight, I got Roberson via first round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the, this is our co-prelim headliner, if that even is such a thing, but in the 135 division, or the women's 135, women's bantamweight division, Kianzad versus Eubanks. And this fight is pretty interesting in a way, because Eubanks, like, she's been making improvements, but then at the same time, it's like she's been, well, no, like, she definitely made an improvement, so I got to give her improvement. She made her improvements. She did lose her last fight, but it was a step up in competition. I don't think it was a fight she really could have won, or anyway stylistically, but her prior fight, she fought a fight where she really was able to grapple for 3 rounds straight and not gas out. At first, it was like Eubanks had all the talent in the world, but that her gas tank just wasn't there. Like, if she could grapple, she probably would have, grappled for 3 rounds straight. She would have had lost some of these fights she lost. But in her, prior to her last fight, she was able to, show her full potential in that last fight. So So Kianzad versus Sajara Eubanks. I think Kianzad is a much more composed striker between the two, but she does have some grappling issues, and I think that's what's going to allow Eubanks in. And Eubanks' striking is not no slouch in the striking. I think Kianzad is much sharper, much cleaner, and she can hold that pace on the feet, and she had that composure, where Eubanks a lot of times doesn't have the composure to set things up and kind of just tries to, just tries to land a strike instead of set it up sometimes. That's what I'm trying to say. With these more composed strikers, they see shots. They don't just try to, make shots land. They set them up so they know they're going to land. I think that's where the difference between Kianzad versus Eubanks on the feet. But at least seeing with Kianzad's fight against Chiasen in the contender series, I mean, not contender, but the Ultimate Fighter, her grappling is definitely not the worst. It's solid grappling, but she can be out-grappled by better grapplers, and that's what I'm saying. Eubanks is one of the better grapplers, period, in the women's MMA, especially in this division. And with Kianzad's deficiency in that grappling area, I think that's an avenue for Eubanks to get takedowns on Kianzad and control her and win rounds over Kianzad just with her top control and control time and steal rounds. I think it's going to be a competitive fight. I think Eubanks is going to really have to dig for some of these takedowns. I think the striking, she's going to be behind in the striking and really have to work for these takedowns. This fight could be a split decision. I think this fight could go either way, but I think it's going to lean to Eubanks' grappling offense and control time to edge this fight in a very close decision. So in this fight, I have Sajara Eubanks via decision. Now to our main event, we have in the welterweight division, Anthony Pettis versus Alex Morono. So look at this fight right here. Morono technically is, or at least by belt and probably in pure BJJ, is the higher level grappler as far as his black belt status in BJJ. But MMA wise, Anthony Pettis has done a lot more with his BJJ than Morono has done, and against a much higher level competition and for a much longer time. And probably a level that Morono will never reach, but let's not cut him out too short or cut him too short. He's still, 30, so he has a chance to turn around. But Morono definitely has not been an upper echelon fighter or anything near that. He's been more of a middle of the pack fighter. Now he's starting to, kudos to him. He's starting to improve and not, go out there and fight dumb. He's starting to fight smarter and he's picking up more wins. He's being more consistent now. But in the past, he'd be a guy that's saying he just wants to go out there and rather have a fun fight, a fun loss than a boring win type of guy. He even admitted to saying that he wanted to have a certain amount of fights and he wanted them all to be exciting, and he would rather have a exciting loss than a boring win. So it sounds good on paper or sounds good to maybe some fans or some casuals, but to any other fighter or any other person that's non-casual, that just sounds retarded. And excuse my language, but this doesn't sound the best I did. But obviously now he's starting to kind of change that logic around, or at least starting to fight a little bit smarter, mixing his grappling more, actually using his BJJ black belt some, set up his strikes more and fighting more with technique. But all that being said, now that that's out the way, all that beginning stuff is out the way, how I see this fight right here, I think Morono's offensive takedowns are not the best. He's not a wrestler. He's not an amazing takedown artist. He's not. His striking is decent, sneakily technical on the feet when he wants to be. But Anthony Pettis is the far more technical fighter, the far faster fighter, the far more versatile fighter, far more experienced, far more versatile. And I think, like I said, I think in MMA, Pettis can out-grapple Morono. I think he can take him down. I think he can tap him out. I think he can beat him everywhere in this fight goes. It's like I don't see Morono being a wrestler that's going to take Pettis down and have success with that. I don't see him as being this pressure fighter that's going to put him on the back foot and keep Pettis honest. He's going to be a guy that's going to allow Pettis to get off on him. He's too hittable. He's slower. And he's far less technical than Pettis. So I really don't see any avenue for Morono to win. And it's not like Pettis has a glass chin or is just that poor at wrestling defense. So I don't really see any area that, like I said, Morono can really possibly find a path to success unless Pettis just does not show up at all. But any version of Pettis I've ever seen will beat Morono on any given day, is from what I've seen. So in this fight, I see Anthony Pettis been able to do whatever he wants on the feet and in the ground. And I just see Pettis been able to really just be Showtime in this one and just do whatever he wants, whatever he feels he needs to do, or feel whatever the moment calls for, and just be Pettis, let his hands go, let his strikes go and flow, and let his game, just let his full skill set flow. And I think he stopped Morono in the second round. So in this fight, I have Anthony Pettis via second round TKO. And that concludes my fight predictions for the prelims of UFC Fight Night, Thompson versus Neal. And as always, thanks for watching.